All right, it is 3 after, so we're going to go ahead and get started with today's petitioner training. Thank you everyone for coming out today and making the time to get trained on the rules for signature collection. These are crucial for collecting signatures, as any minor mistakes can cause an entire petition of signatures to be invalidated. So it takes just a short amount of time to get caught up to speed on the rules. And if you have any questions during any part of the presentation, feel free to drop those in the Q&A, and I'll make sure to address those at the end. So if you're here for the webinar, you are here to support the Legal Missouri 2022 campaign, which is the campaign to legalize adult use marijuana in Missouri. And however you found out about us, we are glad you're able to join us and support the campaign. It's a crucial drug policy change that is long overdue. And the presentation will probably take about 30 minutes. So just so you can all plan for time, I've got a bit of a PowerPoint presentation for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And when I send my follow-up email to everyone, I will include the PowerPoint slides. I'll include the recording of today's presentation, my contact info, the contact info for our regional volunteer coordinators, as well as some other guidance documents and next steps. Okay, so going ahead and sharing my screen. All right, let me know if anybody has issues seeing the slideshow. And here we go. So you have likely seen this logo, the Legal Mo 22 logo, floating around online, in the news, on social media. This is the official campaign of the logo. This is the official campaign logo, and there is an all black version as well, but this is how you'll know that a post is associated with our campaign. It's pretty easy to recognize. And as I mentioned, this is the campaign to legalize adult use marijuana. And I'm going to tell you a bit about how we got here and what our goal is for the next approximately year. So thank you again for volunteering your time and effort to give Missourians access to adult use marijuana. Your dedication and effort is crucial to our success. Nearly 3 years after Missourians voted with almost 67% support to legalize medical marijuana, our campaign wants to give voters the opportunity to legalize marijuana for adult use in 2022. A citizens ballot initiative was filed on August 27th by Legal Missouri 2022, a statewide coalition of activists, entrepreneurs, cannabis patients, and criminal justice reform advocates, with the goal of providing a fresh start to tens of thousands of state residents whose criminal records would be wiped clean of low-level marijuana offenses. There's finally enough support among our voters to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana. And now is the time for Missouri to join the 19 other states to have successfully regulated and taxed adult use marijuana, bringing in millions in new funding for vital state services. So in order to reach the 2022 ballot, we need to collect 172,000 valid signatures by May 8th, which is 6 months ahead of the 2022 election. So residents of Missouri have the power to propose legislation as a constitutional amendment on the November 2022 ballot by collecting enough valid signatures in at least 6 of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. If the signature threshold is reached, the measure then goes on the ballot. And if Missourians vote with more than 50% of yes votes next year, the measure would become enshrined in the state constitution. The outcome of the campaign will largely depend on the ability of volunteers and existing medical marijuana facilities to effectively gather approximately 100,000 of these necessary signatures, as we will also be working with a paid signature collection company to work in tandem with our volunteer team. All right, I'm going to go into some of the key elements of the language. These are the points that most supporters or those that are on the fence will have questions about. It'll be good if you can have a brief answer for them, and you'll be able to get a thorough understanding of the initiative by reading the full 35 or so pages. However, looking over the key talking points and the FAQs on the website should be enough to engage with pretty much every interested voter. So these are just the most important components of the bill. That first and foremost, it is adult use, which some people will ask if this means recreational marijuana. It is essentially the same term. It means that Missourians 21 years and older would be allowed to possess, purchase, consume, and home cultivate marijuana. It also would create automatic expungement for Missourians with nonviolent marijuana-related offenses. And it implements a 6% retail tax, and the surplus of this tax would be split equally between veterans' health care, drug addiction treatment, and Missouri's underfunded public defender system. So typically these first 3 points are just about as far as I get into conversation with voters when I'm talking to them about the campaign. By the time I've hit expungement and the tax that would go to fund crucial programs, that's enough for most people to want to sign or not sign. But in my experience thus far, I've had probably 85% success rate getting people to sign. And then there are other components that people care about as well, which we're making sure to educate on our social media channels, on our website, and when people ask in public, such as the public safety provisions. And in terms of public use of marijuana, this would still be prohibited under the initiative if enacted, as well as driving under the influence of marijuana. This would also remain prohibited. And violent offenders and those whose offenses involved distribution to a minor would be ineligible for expungement. The initiative would also allow for existing medical marijuana dispensaries to quickly convert to serving both patients and adult consumers, which would reduce illicit market sales in Missouri. It also allows local opt-outs, so communities who would prefer not to allow adult use retail marijuana sales in their city limits could opt out of the program through a vote of the people and not allow dispensaries. It also adds a minimum of 144 new cannabis businesses to the existing 380 licensed, and puts the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services in charge of licensing and implementation. And finally, this is a constitutional amendment, meaning that the legislature would be prevented from gutting the initiative after its passage. So those are the main elements of the language that are of most interest, and anything else that you all are interested in learning about or voters are interested in learning about can be found in the initiative text on the website in the FAQ section, or if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me and we will make sure to get answers to your questions. There are rules for signature collecting, as I mentioned, to ensure that the signatures are valid. So to ensure that your valuable time and effort are not wasted, please familiarize yourself with the following rules for signature gathering, and be sure to review these instructions thoroughly before collecting signatures. I personally find that it's helpful to have a printout, whether it be of these PowerPoint slides or of the rules document that I'm going to send in my follow-up email. It'll be the same one that you received in your training confirmation email. But having these with me when I'm out at events, or if you are going to be a signing location, having these on the counter where the petition is going to be is helpful just to reference, especially the first couple of times that you're doing this until you get into the swing of things. If you're collecting signatures with someone who's already done this before, that's very helpful if they can answer those questions for you. So basic eligibility requirements: you have to be 18 years of age to gather signatures, and only registered Missouri voters may sign the petition. depending on where you are in the state, or if you're at a big event, you'll sometimes get folks from Illinois or Arkansas or Oklahoma who really want to sign the petition. They're extremely supportive, but it is against the law for them to do so. It will not count. It will be a waste of space on the petition. So you can tell them that there are plenty of other ways they can support the campaign, such as sharing our educational content with their friends who are Missouri voters, educating friends and family, making donations, volunteering themselves to collect signatures. All of these are ways that non-Missouri voters can help support our campaign. If someone lives in Missouri and they're not yet registered to vote, they can do so at the link provided here. It's available on the Secretary of State's website. If you're going to be out collecting signatures, I have a sheet of QR codes, the campaign calls to action. So it's got a register to vote QR code. It's got it's got a scan to vote QR code, where when supporters scan, they're taken to this URL so they can check their voter registration status. They can get the process started if they're not registered to vote. There's also QR codes for making a donation or getting involved with the campaign or viewing the map of signing locations. So if you're interested in getting a copy of that so you can print it out and bring it with you to events, I'll happily send that over to you. It takes about 2 weeks for folks to complete the process of becoming a registered voter, but once that's confirmed, they are able to sign the petition and have it be counted as a valid signature. Okay, so this is what you are going to be seeing when you're collecting signatures over the next few months. So this is the front page of the petition. The petition, if you've not held one before, it's a legal size packet of paper. So it's a little bit longer than 8.5 by 11. Can't fit it in a standard folder or binder. So it's good to have a bag to carry it around of some sort. It's about 35 pages, and each petition has 10 signature lines on it. And once you've completed a petition, you'll just move on to the next one. So the first thing you will want to do when you get your very first signer is ask them what county they are registered to vote in, because that is going to be the first line that you fill out. And that is what's circled up here in the top right corner. It says the county of signers. So it's important that you put the county that your first supporter is registered to vote in. So let's say you're collecting signatures at an event in St. Louis and you get someone who's registered in St. Louis County. So you would write here, you would write out fully St. Louis County. You can abbreviate Saint, but you definitely have to put St. Louis County. And if it's an instance of someone who is living in St. Louis City, you'll want to make sure that you write out St. Louis City because they are two distinct counties. And if a St. Louis City voter signs the county form, it won't be counted, and it could be a reason to strike all 10 signatures from the page. So first thing you'll do is confirm their county, and this would become the St. Louis County petition. So then your first supporter would sign, and any supporter after them who signs this petition must be a St. Louis County voter. So signatures of voters from counties other than the one designated in the upper right-hand corner will not be counted as valid, as I just mentioned. So having separate petitions, having extra petitions on you, extra blank petitions is always helpful. And this page number section right here, you'll want to leave that blank. And the address that these signers are going to be filling out, this is going to be their registered voting address, which is typically where they're currently living, but sometimes people move often, and their previous address was where they are actually currently registered to vote at. So wherever the person is currently registered to vote at is the address that they need to include here. They need to write it out fully, put the zip code, and leave the congressional district blank. No one can use an office address or a work address. It has to actually be a residential address, and make sure that everyone is filling out all of the information completely. Some people see the signature line and the first and last name line, and they'll just say ditto or something like same as first line. They actually have to write out all of the information. They have to sign first and print last and leave the congressional district blank. That's kind of my spiel that I say the first time someone is signing. And then after the first couple of people sign, people get the flow of signing. They see that everyone else is leaving the congressional district blank, so they usually know to do so. And the name that people use to sign, this is important. Some people will sign with a nickname. It actually has to be their official name and signature that they use on legal documents like their driver's license. Each person can only sign the petition one time. If someone cannot remember if they've already signed, ask them to go ahead and sign, but to be aware that they cannot sign this petition again. It is illegal for anyone to knowingly sign the petition more than once. It's also illegal to sign for another person. This happens all the time, especially at events where groups of friends are wanting to sign. One of them wanders off and the first friend is like, hey, I know their address, I'll just fill in the information for them. That's not allowed. That is enough for the signature or potentially the whole page to be struck. So make sure that each individual signer is completing the information themselves. There are exceptions for those with disabilities, such as those who are visually impaired. In these instances, you can absolutely fill out the information for them, as long as they're able to make some sort of marking by the line to just note that they were present when you filled out this information for them. You must sign and date each petition in the presence of a notary after the signatures on the sheet have been collected. So you don't necessarily have to do this every time you complete a petition, because some people are able to collect 10 signatures in an hour. Once you've completed a sheet, just make sure that you are storing it in a safe and secure location. And when the time comes to notarize them, that is when you will start filling out your information. So this information here, these lines up here, this space here, this space here, you won't fill out any of these until you're getting them notarized. So what I find helpful is to put a sticky note on each petition with my name on it. This is especially helpful if I'm collecting with a group or if I'm collecting at a store or a signing location. Some people just go by the handwriting up here, which is usually fine, but sometimes people have similar handwriting and it gets very confusing. So sticky notes work for me. Figure out what works best for you, but just know that the only thing you're going to fill out initially is the county of signers. Then everyone will fill out the signature lines. Only when you're done collecting signatures for this page will you fill out your petitioner information here, and you'll fill out the county that matches up here, the county of the signers. And the only one that'll be potentially different is here, the county where the petition is being notarized. So let's say that you collected signatures from St. Louis County people, but you're going to a notary event in St. Louis City to get these notarized, or you're meeting a notary friend in St. Charles. You would want to put whatever county you are in currently where you're getting your petitions notarized. So always questions are raised about these lines. It's understandably pretty confusing, which is why we have this marked up document that I will also include in the follow-up email. Very good to just have this printed out, reference it the first few times. Like I said, you'll get into the swing of it and you'll really become familiar with the format here. Again, signatures dated after the notary date can cause the whole page to be deemed invalid. So you are attesting that you personally witnessed all of the signatures on the page. So each petition must belong to a specific petitioner. This question gets asked a lot. You can't share your petitions with someone else. You have to collect them yourself. You can't hand them off to someone. If you're taking a bathroom break or something, they need to have their own, and you need to have your own petition. Please do not make copies of the petition pages. The petition is available online. It's available on our website for download. You can absolutely print it and keep it on hand for reference or for notes, but you cannot print off the petition and use it for signature collection. You can only use the official petition page that you've received from campaign personnel or from a designated petition hub. When you are running low, you can actually email me. You'll have that email shortly after the presentation. So whenever you're running low on petitions, you can let me know. I'll tell you where you can pick up petitions, but we do have several established petition hubs located all across the state in the major metro areas, with more coming online soon, where you can stop by and pick up blank petitions as you need. Another note, to only use blue or black ink. All signers must only use either of these two colors. Signatures made in pencil or any other color will not count. And I do recommend having extra pens on you, because it happens all the time. I will bring 2 or 3 pens, even 4 pens, and somebody accidentally walks off with one, another one of them dries out, and you're only left with 2 pens and 4 petitions in front of you at your table. And it just causes extra unneeded stress. So bringing extra pens is always a good idea. Again, only fill in the specified information fields. Don't write anywhere else on the petition sheet or make unnecessary marks. Cut the petitions or tear the pages apart. It must be kept stapled in its original form. You must personally witness each signature, so do not leave your petition on a counter or bulletin board, as I mentioned earlier. And don't use whiteout. Inevitably, it seems like every other petition, someone is making some sort of mistake, which just is human error. It happens all the time, but people's first reaction is to scribble out the error. However, the state wants you to just draw a single line through the error and put your initials right above the error. You know, they want to see the error. They don't want it to be scribbled out or to have whiteout used. So if it's a really big mistake, like they wrote the completely wrong address and there's just not enough space, just put a whole line through that entire signature line and start over below. And some more general rules here. You have the right to collect signatures on public property, such as outside a public library, courthouse, city hall, or public sidewalk surrounding a theater, sports or concert venue, or shopping district. If there's ever instances where you're being asked to leave and you're certain that it's public property, such as the places I mentioned, you can feel free to inform the staff that it's your legal right to collect signatures. But if conversations start elevating, and especially if there's someone like a security guard or a police officer involved, we recommend that you don't escalate the situation any further and just comply with their directives and leave the property. But we do ask that you follow up with one of us. You can send me an email or a text letting me know where you were when this happened. That way we can report this. Again, make sure to have extra petitions available so people can read the complete language of the measure. This doesn't happen frequently, but sometimes people do want to scan the 35 pages and just become a little more familiar with it. But you don't want to give them a petition that already has signatures on it, because sometimes people just walk off with things, especially at big events. It's easy to just walk off with something in your hand. So when someone wants to read the petition, please give them a blank one, and please do not alter, correct, clarify, or obscure any information that a signer writes on the petition. And these are the most common reasons for signatures to be deemed invalid, which we've covered up until this point, but it's helpful to review. So signatures from more than one county are on a petition page. The signer is not a registered Missouri voter. There was a failure of the circulator to sign, date, and notarize the petitions. The signatures are dated after the notary date. The information is insufficient, illegible, or ambiguous, or petitions are marked, defaced, or something has been whited out. So that is it for the rules. And now I will get into next steps now that you've been trained. If you're on the call now and you're wanting to be a signing location, that's fantastic. If you're on the call now and you're wanting to be a volunteer or just to learn more, that's great. We have made amazing progress since we first started doing these trainings. So the information that we're giving out has changed just a little bit, including our map of signing locations, which is now live on our website. And I'm actually going to drop that here in the chat for you all. It does also have listed our petition hubs. Like I said, there's one in St. Louis City, there's one in St. Louis County, there's one in Columbia, there's one in Joplin, there's one in Springfield, there's one in Kansas City, and there will soon be one in North Kansas City, as well as St. Joseph, with hopefully one coming to St. Peter's here very soon, just so that we can make it as easy as possible to get blank petitions and supplies to all of the volunteers who would like them. So that's the link to the map in the chat. And then I don't know if anyone was able to see, but this week we had our kickoff media event in Kansas City on Wednesday. And then we just had our press event in St. Louis today. So I'm going to send one of the first articles that was actually posted by STL Public Radio. So this is just good content to share with your friends and for yourself if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the campaign. And I'm going to look now in the Q&A and see if there are any questions. And if you do have questions, now is the time. Type them out and I will see if I possibly have an answer for them. Okay. Perfect. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the presentation, everyone. Super grateful you were able to make the time and join us today. I'll be sending you, like I said, a bunch of resources, including our volunteer Facebook group. It would be extremely helpful if you haven't already to sign up on the website, on the volunteer page. That way you can get our regular email blasts. They go out on Fridays, usually with upcoming events happening in currently St. Louis and Kansas City, with those expanding soon to the other major metro areas. So you can hear about events where you can go and collect signatures, team up with other volunteers. And we're very soon going to be announcing some regular notary events where you can bring your completed petitions and turn them into the campaign. Again, meet with other volunteers, pick up new supplies. So we've got about 50 signing locations now. We've got plenty more coming online. So if anyone in your network, if your friends or family want to sign the petition, you can send them this map. And if there's not one close to them, just tell them to check back soon, and there will probably be one not too far from them. So again, thanks everyone for attending today. Really appreciate you sticking with me and making the time to get trained on these rules. And hopefully I will see you all out and about in the coming days and weeks at some of our events. Thanks, guys.